Hi, this is Lee with Crashtesthobby with the second video on building the 48-inch Albatross and the 36-inch Pelican. A lot of times the horns need to be drilled out so the push rods will fit through the horns. Put the push rods in place and check to make sure that they move the elevator and the rudder without much force. I'm using small Hextronics 900 servos in this plane, but any small servo will do. You want to cut the foam so that the servos fit in tightly and there's not a lot of extra space that has to be filled with glue. Servos can be mounted upright or horizontally, as is being done here. Just cut it so that the servos fit tightly into the foam. As you can see, the little servo screw connectors are pressed into slits. Now I'm going to run the wires from the servos as far forward as I can. And I've cut a slit with a razor blade and now just pressing the wires down into that slit. Using a glue gun, I'm gluing the servos in place. This is what you'd do whether they were mounted vertically or horizontally. We're now going to attach the receiver, plug the rudder into the aileron plug on the receiver, speed control into the power, and the elevator into the elevator servo. At this point I have a binding plug in the receiver and did a quick demonstration on how to bind a radio. You need to cut a place for the receiver to sit down into the fuselage under the wing. I cut this with a razor blade or an X-Acto knife, and then we'll open it up more with a soldering iron, so I've got a little extra room, and press the receiver into place. Mark the location of your motor mount screw holes and drill the firewall with your drill for the screws, and screw the motor mount in place. The motor mount is in place and I sanded the edge to make it fit the shape of the fuselage. Notice how the wires are on the top of the fuselage. Speed control is now going to be inserted into the top of the fuselage. I open this up with my soldering iron and then just run the wires back to the receiver. Make sure your receiver antennas are pointing different directions, but that location works well. Now cutting out the battery slot, you can do this entirely with an X-Acto blade. Notice how I use several different layers of cutting in order to get clear through the fuselage. In a minute I'm going to show you how the battery can be laid the length of the fuselage in case you are using larger batteries. This is very secure and works quite well. This particular fuselage lays the battery flat and is good for large batteries. I'm now putting the arms on the servos and drilling them out so that the easy connectors can fit. Easy connectors snap on and make adjusting the push rod length much easier. Servo arms should be at 90 degrees after the radio is on, and the trims are set at 0 on the transmitter. I'm now cutting off the push rods so that I can get them into the easy connectors on the servo. Plugging in the battery, and now tightening them after the trims are at 0 and making sure that they're moving. Look at which way the rudder moves and the elevator moves with the movement of the stick. The blue dot is on the center of gravity, and these center of gravity marks are reference points, but not something I leave on the plane. I pin the wing in place, trying to see where that center of gravity is going to be. In this case, the plane is tail heavy when my fingers are back at the suggested center of gravity that's on the plans. Now the plane was nose heavy, so just by moving it around at this point, I can get the plane to balance on my fingers. I'm happy with that. I draw a line at the back of the wing and at the front of the wing. The line at the back is 1/2 inch behind the trailing edge. Now make sure you pull your wires out first before you cut the lines. Cut them 3/4 inch deep. Now watch this magic thing. Take your dowel and just push it into the slit. You don't have to drill. It just pushes down and it fits into the fuselage. And glue them in place. And open it up enough that you can run your wires back through to the receiver and from the speed control, and put your receiver back in the hole that was cut for it. I'm now touching up, just making sure that the dowels are well secured in the fuselage, and I stretch rubber bands up and over the wing in order to hold the wing in place. Receiver is under the wing. Now put your prop on frontwards, makes the plane fly better. And I'm using an easy connector with a O-ring. You're about to see the fastest paint job. I get told I'm cheating when I do it this way. I don't mask, just use paint and put colors on the plane. You can make it as technical as you want. Some people are really building pretty planes. But this shows up really well against the white or a cloudy sky. Now we're going to do the same thing on the tail and the rudder. Don't let the paint get so thick that it will melt the foam. Usually if you put just a light coat, it will do a good job. This is an Albatross trainer, and thanks for watching the video. We hope you enjoy your plane.